Hey, I thought it would be interesting to share how our garden changed between the very beginning on the 29th of November right up here until February 7th. So what's that? We can call this December 1, January, February, 2 months and a week. So it started here in these little tiny planter pots, nursery sort of thing. And I put all the seeds there and I prepared the dirt just straight store-bought. It was about 10 kilos for $15 here in Thailand, so 500 baht. Not the best deal. And I bought these real cheap at the 20 baht shop or the dollar store, basically. So I got all these for a dollar each, and I quickly grew them. Kind of used them as an intermediate nursery, and in the end, I don't feel that I needed these at all. Maybe one single adult plant can fit in each of these later when it's full grown, something like that. But I found the nursery, the things would grow a bit, but most of them had bigger roots, and I don't really understand why we need to use the nursery. This is my first time, and maybe for sensitive plants or if you have outside conditions that are a bit threatening, something like that. But most of the things, the roots grew so fast that they were stumped actually by this. The growth was stunted by being in such a small container. And then there's a little bit of drama when you transplant them and whatnot. So here in Thailand, at least, and I have them sitting under my house a bit. You can see these pillars, and I sort of tuck everything underneath. So here they're pretty protected even when we had floods, and I'm glad I did put them in containers. I started with these ones and outgrew them immediately and bought these much bigger containers that, I don't know, maybe they're 100 gallons or something. They're almost a meter wide and I don't know, however short, maybe a foot and a half tall, about half a meter. So, out of everything I planted in here, many things grew quite easily, and other things failed completely. I tried replanting, and most of the things that failed the first time failed the second time. But I planted a lot of tomatoes. They didn't go, unfortunately, here in November, January, February, or really just December and January. And the eggplants went crazy. These are the eggplants growing. No, sorry, these are the pepper plants. Bean. These are bean plants. The bean plants did really well. I also left some growing on their own at the other side of the house, all the way to the left. And these ones I planted with marigolds to partner plant and defend the pepper plants a little bit. And indeed, the ones that did not have the marigold, they were sitting on the ground in one of these sort of strainer container styles that I have here. And I put about this many in one box and left them as a trap plant to take bugs away from this one. And these were to be spread out. And then all of them that were sort of huddled together, they did attract all the bugs. Praying mantis hung out there and lived for about 3 weeks, and he was eating all the bugs, but the ants started farming the aphids. And these aphids are like these little tiny bugs that eat your pepper plants. So all the aphids stayed over there. And then here where there's marigolds and more space between the peppers, again, these were very much spread out after this. It's going quite well. So this here is the 19th of January. So this is about 20 days into the whole thing. It looked like this. And I got clay from a cliffside, sand from here, and I had opened a bunch of coconuts and torn the husk to shreds and buried them in there as well. With a little bit also, about probably a quarter of it is filled with something more like peat moss, which has a bit more nutrients that I did buy in a store. Eventually I found 5 bags selling for 100 baht, which is $3, and they're about 2 kilos each. So instead of paying $15, I paid $3 finally for the same amount of dirt, and then mixed them with sand, coconut, and clay, and it seems quite well. However, something about this container, I'm interested to check the pH or something. Nothing ever grows in this container. I don't know why. And I'm also, it could have something to do with my cat. My cat likes to crawl in here and piss and stuff like that, which is why later you'll see there's a solution now. So this is the same time, January 19th, and here's the eggplants, which I planted 2 weeks later than the other plants that came from the nursery. So the peppers are a little older. And then here with these bamboo sticks, you can see I moved some of the baby um, eggplants, and I spread them. I left all these, so I spread one, two, three, and then these two, and then I put a few of them to start growing in another bucket. So it was about another 5 or so, and then here I left a group of like 15 maybe. And I was curious to just see what would happen if I left them together, if they would draw too much bug attention, and certainly I was sure that they would fight for root space. Up till now, they got to about here maybe, or something around there. They actually did really well, but I think that when they matured and started bearing vegetables, they wouldn't do with just this little bit of space. But I was curious to see what they did, and that was long enough. Here's some extra pepper plants I had. All these here are tons of extra pepper plants in a shady area, so they're also not growing much, and I just threw them in the clay dirt here just to see if they could grow, and even in the shade to see if they can grow. And all these are extras that I need to give away to people. And interestingly enough, I don't know if it's coincidence in the way that the season went, but there's a series of similar plants that started growing right next to it. These are not pepper plants. It happened in the beans as well. I left some beans alone in the corner and planted them low on the ground in a small bucket, and plants that look just like bean plants started growing next to them. Again, don't know if it's coincidence, but very interesting. And so now we're here in February 7th, and we have beautiful little flowers starting to peek out from the matured pepper plants that are looking very, very healthy and nice. Here it is again, and here's a nice shot of it. Look at that, vibrating out. And there's these very beautiful, interesting red bits just on top of each branch that stems out. And next to it, you can see it's growing rather harmoniously and pretty with the marigolds. So we're having them in very close space, but we'll see how they cohabitate. I think they certainly complement each other, and the marigolds protect the pepper plants from a lot of its pests. So far, the pepper plants look very healthy. We do have some cosmetic eating happening. I'll show you in a minute. Here's the other buds starting to grow out of the maturing pepper plants, looking very nice. And here's an aerial view of the pepper plants and the marigolds. There's 3 different pepper plants here, and also growing underneath, you can see here, this is garlic growing up. I have 2 of those planted under the ground. And there's also, they're not doing so well, but there's a bunch of seeds in there to make scallions. But those grasses just keep coming up really fine, and they haven't been growing unless they surprise me and shoot up at some point. Now, these eggplants look amazing. I planted the lettuce, which is underneath them, all over, maybe just 20 days ago. I have the date somewhere, but I think it was about that. But the eggplants, these ones are in the sun. And I'll show you a picture of the other ones that were taken also today. These are the only ones that are in direct sunlight for most of the day. And they're just blasting up with these big, huge plant leaves. And I'm not doing anything differently on those except the sunlight. The earth should be about the same, though I haven't tested pH. I mixed them together. But the lettuce is here too. I think that that's just, I don't think they're related. I don't think that the lettuce is helping the eggplant grow, but you never know. But, and then here is a close-up of underneath how the lettuce is growing. And here's a shot now of the bean plants. Bean plants? Is this bean or pepper? I've forgotten. I may remember in a minute. I've gotten them confused. But there's some bites in the leaves. Yes, these are peppers? I don't know. I've lost it. There's some bites in the leaves that are circular, but then there's also some chunks missing. So it could have been my cat before I put these new fences up. I put this wire circle around the whole thing. Or it could be a slug, but I don't see any silver streaks or weird things like that. But this is a new problem of maybe 2 or 3 days. So they look healthy as of now, but there's a little threat here. So I'm going to see how these ones are doing and continue to do some more research and keep an eye out if anything gets worse. And also just every morning when I go to look at them, look closely for any direct evidence of who it is doing this. So yes, that's the pepper plant. It's got the same pretty flowers coming out. Here we also have, these are now the bean plants with the marigolds. And here are a couple potato sprouts that are just going crazy out of the ground. I planted the potatoes deep underneath, and they just shoot up these big green sprouts? Shoots, big green shoots. And then next to it is again, you see the marigolds coming in. They're not as strong as in the other bucket, I think, again, because of direct sunlight, but it's just really beautiful to see them all grow together, and I'm learning a lot. And just some flowers on the bean plants. Another view of the bean plants. And that's about it. One thing I really think is cool is on these eggplants. You see these little windy, strippy guys? They do like little circles in the sunlight looking for what's around them and finding something to climb. So they started to climb their own branches, or just kind of go out over here. These are bush beans, so they don't have to climb quite too much, but I want them to climb a bit, and then I'll let them bush out. So maybe there'll be about 21 inches, I think. So instead of letting this bush bean start becoming bushy and just letting the little dangly antenna type thing reach for something to climb and then discover that there is nothing, I just brought it back onto the branch. I secured it a little bit with twine on the bottom, and I let it. I just wrapped it once around the pole, hoping that it'll now say, okay, cool, let's keep climbing. So we see, and I'm not really positive on how high I should bring or could bring this, but these are bush beans, and I believe they're meant to be about 21 inches. So I think I'll bring them up to about this ring, and then just let them start plopping over. Maybe retry that. So that's about it. 2 months and 8 or 9 days in, and now every day gets easier. There's less to do. The systems are in place. The soil's there. You just kind of look at the plants all the time, and the ones that are thriving quite easily, like the beans and the peppers and the potatoes and the garlic and, well, the marigolds to counteract, to protect. I just let them grow, and it's very, very little effort. I have a ton of them. Tomatoes didn't go, hot peppers did not go, celery did not go. The scallions seem to be having trouble getting thick and strong. So those ones I'll try again, but maybe even another season. We started at the tail end of the wet season, so we had a lot of rain and no sun. And then the sun's just starting, and fellas like the eggplant are loving it. I'm sure the other plants might as well. And we'll see. Just an interesting little update on my discoverings thus far, and 2 months of giving it my best shot. See you later.